Hey, how's it going, everybody? So I recently sent a pretty long-worded message to my Senator, Mark Kelly, and I want to use this video to ask you to do the same. I'm going to run you through what I told him. You can model whatever you say to your representative based off of this, but this needs to start happening more and more, and we need to start telling these people what is going to happen and when it is going to happen. Otherwise, they will not be in office anymore. You can call them, you can go online to their website and leave them a message there with your contact information. You can email them through your personal email. There's a lot of different ways to get into contact with these people, but whatever method you choose is not really important. It's just important that you do. Now, that being said, if you have a longer message like mine that I'm about to read to you, I do suggest using either email or that particular politician's website to send them a message, because for some reason, you can only leave up to like 90-second messages via phone. And good luck getting anyone to pick up the phone for you. That just never really happens. You can also write letters, by the way. If you wanted to handwrite or type out and print a letter and send it, that's something that you can do as well. So without further ado, let me read you the message that I sent to Mark Kelly. The message goes, "Hello, Mark Kelly. My name is blank. I live in blank, Arizona, but was born and raised in blank. I didn't always enjoy the arid desert growing up, but now there is nowhere I would rather live. I see great beauty in the Sonoran Desert and in all the mountains in our state. However, soon we will have ice descend upon our state, something which I voted for, believe it or not. From a very young age, I remember seeing abandoned clothes, backpacks, and water bottles when hunting with my father out in the desert. My father and I used to hear unsavory stories from a farmer out past Red Rock Village who allowed us to use that land to hunt. It always amazed me just how determined these people were to come here. I remember their abandoned belongings were so worn and tattered. I knew even then that they were the remains of a brutal journey." Okay, so I'm establishing that I've lived in this state a long time, I've been doing a lot of things here, and I've kind of been seeing this issue. I've been tying in my own experience, even from being a young child, into what I am seeing today. I am basically telling him that I have been paying attention to these issues for a long time. I go on to say, "However, I do believe that the rampant immigration we saw during the Biden administration has been of detriment to our communities. I also believe that those people have suffered far worse on their journey to get here. I remember hearing about how all the materials for that southern wall were abandoned and left to rot. I also remember the issue of immigration in the years prior to that somehow becoming a politicized issue which allowed for a convenient political stalemate and therefore inaction in regards to any legislation to fix the issue. It's funny how often that seems to happen these days. Because if everybody just looks at what's going on with these killings of American citizens by federal agents and something like the border issue, how are we at a political stalemate for this stuff? That anybody would take the stance that these killings are justified, or that we should leave a whole bunch of materials to build a border wall just to rot, and that we should let millions of people in unchecked. If you ask me, these are artificially contrived opinions that are pushed on everybody by the media. People are being manipulated into thinking these things. Anyways, I go on to say, in fact, it's happening right this very minute. The shootings of Alex Preddy and Renee Nicole are somehow justified in the minds of many Americans, despite the overwhelming empirical evidence that proves that both shootings were completely unnecessary. Which is true. If you look at the video of the first shooting by ICE of Renee Nicole, you very clearly see that she is going maybe 3 miles an hour. The ICE agent is at the left headlight where she is turning away from him. He is not in danger, and her steering wheel is jacked all the way to the right. Any reasonable individual would know that that vehicle did not pose a threat to them right there in that moment. But the government came out and literally lied straight to our faces about it and said that that woman was trying to mow them down with her vehicle. Then we see the same thing with Alex Preddy. Yes, he was getting in the way. Yes, he was being a little bit of an annoyance, but that's the kind of person that you arrest for obstruction. That's not the kind of person that you disarm, you hold down like some kind of livestock animal, and then shoot, whatever, a dozen times in the back. And then they came out and they lied about that again, saying that he approached with his firearm out and that he was going to commit mass murder of ICE agents. That's just not what happened at all. They're literally trying to gaslight the public. But anyways, let's get back to the message here. I say, now ICE is coming here. I voted for Trump for many reasons. During the campaign, he admitted to many mistakes he had made in his first term, including appointing many of the wrong people. Admitting mistakes is not something I have seen from any other politician. He showed great courage when that assassin nearly killed him, almost fearless. He also seemed very authentic and was willing to say what was on everyone's mind that many others were unwilling to say, which is all true. Those are the reasons why I voted for Donald Trump. And now, of course, for many more reasons than that, I am completely and utterly opposed him and everyone else in the government, which includes Mark Kelly himself, which I will get to here soon in the letter. So I go on to say, but since January of this year, I have seen a number of very concerning decisions made by him. I have seen him use DOGE, the Department of Government Efficiency, as a syringe to inject a private company's AI into at least a half dozen government agencies. I'm sure you have heard of Palantir by now, the same AI that is wired in with every flock camera, which have been sprinkled into our communities. And how about the big beautiful bill? Axing all those tax credits and then pumping the budgets for defense and border patrol by nearly $200 billion per year? Why are we siphoning more wealth from the people by removing tax credits and moving it directly over to defense and the border patrol? Which is something that I have been questioning for a very long time now, practically since I started hearing about Palantir and when I saw the big beautiful bill get passed through Congress. Why are we doing all of these very authoritarian things, like forcing smart meters onto people's homes so that people can bypass the state level entities who are normally the only ones with that information about your gas or water or electric usage? And now we're going to be sending it over the cloud or through servers or who the hell knows where. And why are we installing all these cameras in our cities as well? Even the smallest of towns are getting these flock cameras put all over them. And now I'm even hearing that they're proposing legislation that will basically force people into having children. There are legislators right now that are trying to bring up legislation that will impose severe taxes, fines, and fees on people simply for making the choice, which they have the freedom to do, to not have children. I am beginning to see that they are turning this country into a war machine for their own profit and power. And they want total control over that machine, which is pure hubris if you ask me. But let's move on. I tell Mark Kelly, and then recently the car switch funding bill, which I was just talking about, a mandate which will further increase the cost of car ownership and make our vehicles even less reliable. Which, by the way, is something I do not want you to vote in favor of. It is overreach, and it is another imposition that we will also have to pay for. But long story short, I now possess a deep, deep distrust for Trump and his administration. To be honest, I have lost all trust in government. I saw the speech you made after the killing of Alex Preddy. That man's death did not happen in a vacuum. It has happened as Americans are unable to afford basic necessities. It happened as we unravel our foreign policy and plunge into more violent conflicts. It happened as our currency is dying. We need more from you. We need to know exactly what is going on. We need to know that we can trust you to put a stop to this. It's abundantly clear that something is seriously rotten in Washington. Something is not right. And I would like to suggest some things in that vein that you drag into the public light immediately if you really want to hit Trump hard. Do you see, as many of us see, the extensive effort to block the release of the Epstein files? If you ask me, that is the angle we should be taking. Every single day, we need to be reminding people of the following. 1. Trump's administration is breaking multiple clauses of the Epstein Files Transparency Act. They have not released anywhere close to the entirety of the evidence they possess as required by federal law. There is proof for this in the latest release, in which internal emails between the Assistant U.S. Attorney of the Southern District of New York and who I presume to be the FBI, because the email is heavily and illegally redacted, says that one single folder that was transferred, which was called NYC 024362, contains over 600,000 items. These are digital files removed from Epstein's residence in New York, the residence where we saw Epstein had an entire blackmail harvesting system set up. All kinds of sensor technology, dissemination, and distribution technology was in that house. We have the itemized list for that house provided to us by the FBI. It was an absolute blackmail honey trap. But anyways, I continue to tell Mark Kelly, we haven't seen any of these files. The relevant documents are EFTA 000-31415 and EFTA 000-31416 if you want to see the correspondence for yourself. The second thing we need to be reminding people of is that Trump's administration has failed to provide summaries for all redactions as required by the law. One of the redactions in the recent release covers the name of a Florida detective named Joe Recarey on a search warrant who dropped dead at age 50 in 2018. You can see this in document EFTA 000-24566. Why is his name, and furthermore, items that were seized out of his Florida property, being redacted on this list? And then the third thing we need to be reminding people of is that Trump's administration has moved Ghislaine Maxwell to federal prison camp Bryan in Texas, where it is widely reported that she is receiving much better treatment than any other convicted pedophile with a 20-year prison sentence in this country, which is true. This piece of shit woman who would lure little girls into Epstein's den to have them sexually molested is now receiving the best treatment that any prisoner in this country ever has. She is being allowed to use the computers. She has complete autonomy over the gym in the jail. She has recreation time whenever she wants it. She gets to play with all the canines that are in training for the local police departments. They call that puppy time. And she even has a personalized meal schedule. And why congressmen like Mark Kelly aren't bringing that up every single day is beyond me. If he really hates Trump, he should be bringing that up. But anyways, my second to last paragraph reads, I have to be honest with you, Mr. Kelly, this vile sludge is spilling over the edges. It's suspicious how no one in Congress, including yourself, is capitalizing on this. If I were you, I would immediately use my powers to pull people from prison camp Bryan and have them all testify before Congress as soon as possible regarding the unjust treatment of Ghislaine Maxwell. I would declare the desire to initiate impeachment against Trump for breaking the law, or several laws, given that multiple clauses within the same law are being broken. I would tell everyone, if I were Mark Kelly, that the incredibly corrupt non-prosecution agreement between Acosta and Epstein only protected his co-conspirators for the crimes in Florida that were then presently being investigated, not for the crimes committed in New Mexico or New York, where Epstein also operated in the same fashion. These co-conspirators include Sarah Vickers, Adriana Ross, Leslie Groff, and Nadia Marchenkova. Subpoena their testimonies for their roles in Epstein's crimes in New York and New Mexico immediately. We have proof that Epstein paid them well, but not well enough to possess vast legal resources. They are likely the weakest links in the network who were also involved day in and day out for over a decade. There is a consensus in our country about crimes against children. I believe this whole ordeal goes far beyond even that. I don't know a single person who won't rally behind you if you start tearing into it. If you do, you will sure as hell have my vote. Thank you for your time, blank. Okay, so that's my message. I basically started off my message by saying, I've lived in this state for a very long time. I care about what's going on here. Since I was even a young boy, I've been thinking about these things, these problems that have been happening in our state. Then I tie it into what's going on now. But then I kind of throw the twist in where I say, if you really want to stop Trump and if you really want to get at this guy and stop him, take an alternative vector of attack here with the Epstein files. Because the Epstein files is basically undeniable, which is why right at the end of my message, I remind him, we're talking about crimes against children. If you want to try to think of one issue you cannot politicize in this country, my bet would be crimes against children. Hell, even the guys in prison who murder people and steal all come together to beat the hell out of and kill pedophiles. It is probably the most heinous thing that reaches visceral levels of hate in every single person more than any other crime actually can, which is why he should employ this as a strategy to stop Donald Trump and at least put a pause to all this authoritarian stuff that's happening right now. Of course, this has been happening for decades. They've been trying to strip our rights away for decades, but at least right now, when it's really accelerated because all this stuff might come out and our social programs are about to fail, so they're trying to corral us all so that they don't have to take accountability for it. At least in this meantime, this period of time right now, we can pause it, we can delay it, we can turn the tables against against them and start raining fury down upon them instead of vice versa, okay? So please start contacting your representatives and honestly threaten them that they're gonna lose their jobs if they don't start acting right now. Because I'm gonna be honest, Mark Kelly puts out this little message about his parents used to be police officers, he doesn't agree with what's going on with ICE. It's not enough. It just is not enough. That is a very mild response for everything that is going on right now. One man lost his life in Minnesota, but that is not the entire picture. Look at every single other thing that is going on right now in terms of all of the authoritarian measures that are being imposed upon us. We need real leadership right now. We don't need these mild-mannered, pencil-pushing, smooth-talking, scaredy cats who are too afraid to actually stand up for something and start causing problems within the status quo. And so that's where I'm going to end this video. Thank you for watching once again, and I'll see you in the next video.